Hi everyone, Talia from Zart Art, and today we're going to be making a dry felted necklace. So the materials that we'll be using for our dry felted necklace are some wool. So I've got some loose wool here, as well as some wool thread that we'll be using. We've also got our wool cord, which will help us attach the necklace to something we can wear around our neck. And we've also got our high density sponge, which we'll be dry felting into, as well as our felting needle. So if you look very closely, a felting needle has little prongs on the end, so you can't just use any needle, you do need a specific dry felting needle for this to work. So if you haven't done dry felting before, it's a very simple process of meshing the fibers together with a needle. So what we'll be doing is creating some 3D felted balls. So very similar to this. So these are ones that we've made earlier. And what we'll be doing is combining these together as well as one more ball, which I'll show you how to make. And this will start the basis of our necklace. So when you start dry felting, all you need to do is pull some wool and clump it together. So because we will be using our wool thread over the top of these balls, it doesn't really matter what the colour inside the ball is because we'll be covering over it with the wool. So all you need to do is compress that together as much as you can. And if you are doing this with younger students, you might want to get them to wear a glove because it is quite easy to stab yourself if you're not careful. And then just with the needle, it's an up and down stabbing motion or a poking motion. And what that will do is, if you can hear it, that is just pushing the wool fibers together. So it's getting caught on the little prongs of the needle and threading through. So the felting process can take a little while. So what I'm going to do is keep doing this poking motion and just moving that ball around to make sure that the whole area is tight and all the fibers mesh together around the whole circumference, and just keep poking, and what you'll start to feel is that the density of that ball will tighten, and that will keep it all together without any parts coming loose. So as I'm working with the wool, I'm just turning it as I go around. That's just to make sure that we get a circular shape happening. So what you can do as well is flip it over the other side and just maneuver the wool as you're working, so you make sure that you get a circular form. Just be sure when you are working with the wool that you pinch your fingers together and work from the other side, because these needles are quite sharp. You don't want to prick yourself because it will hurt quite a bit. So just make sure you are paying attention to where that needle is going and ensuring that your fingers are far enough away that there's no risk of stabbing. As you're working, you'll see that the ball is starting to take shape and it's beginning to get tighter and tighter the more you stab into it. So that's where you really want to try and get that shape correct. So just pull that as tight as you can together, and that will help you with a quicker process as well. As the tighter you can pull those fibers together, the easier it is for that needle to penetrate and tangle those wool fibers. So we've got a ball shape nearly forming, and I can still see that there's a few loose bits. So as you're working around, just make sure you target the loose bits and just get them into the correct shape. So if you're very specific with the area that you're targeting, then that will push it in and help you get rid of any weird lumps that are starting to form. So dry felting can take quite a bit of time, even if you are working on something quite small. And what you'll notice is I started with quite a bit of wool and it's compressing more and more. So what you want to make sure of is that you don't overdo it, because this ball can be quite solid and quite firm. So if you find you're starting to have trouble with your needle penetrating the wool, you might want to stop working on a certain area and just target the looser bits, or just stop completely and work on the next step. But that ball is starting to take shape. We're nearly there. You'll notice that you can feel where those loose bits are, so that is quite easy to move. So I'm just going to focus on those loose areas and then we'll be done. Okay, so now I've got my rough ball shape, and if you need to, you can shape it with your hands a little bit, but because we are using the wool thread over the top, I'm not too concerned about making a perfect circular shape without any lumps or folds in it. If you do want your circle shape to be absolutely perfect, you can grab some more wool and layer it over the top to get rid of any inconsistencies, but we are covering this and just looking at the size. Just wanted one slightly smaller, so that looks like it'll work quite well. So finished with that step. The next step will be to cover those balls in our wool. So now we've got our 3 sizes. So we're using 3 different colours of wool to cover each size. So we'll start with the larger ball first. So we might start with a white. And all I'm going to do is wrap this around. So this wool will dry felt into the loose wool. So I'm just going to start by putting that in, just so we don't have trouble wrapping it around. So that should stay in there, which makes it a bit easier for us to wrap this all the way around. So my aim for this is just to cover the entirety of that ball so you don't see any of the other wool poking out from underneath. Now, if your students are having any troubles with pieces falling off or things not moving the way they want them, you can just dry felt it in to keep it secure. So that part isn't exactly where I want it to be, so I'm just going to dry felt that in so it doesn't move around. Now, I like the messy look of the wool ball all wrapped around in different directions. You could definitely do it all in the same direction if you wanted it to look a bit neater, but I like this messy look. So that looks pretty good to me. I've just cut off the excess wool, and then that end part, just dry felt that back into the center, and that should keep it secure. We've got our first little woolen ball, so I'm going to repeat the same process with the other 2. So you want to make sure that all 3 are different sizes. So as you can see, these 2 are quite similar. So what I'm going to do is wrap more wool around this one, and that will make it larger. So don't worry too much if the sizes are very similar. We can always just wrap more wool around to extend the size. Now we've finished our 3 balls, all different sizes, all different colours. Of course, you can do whatever colour combinations you like. So for this next part, we're going to be using our felt cord. So as you can see, got quite a bit of length here. So you might just want to measure around your neck. So we want to make sure there's enough length for it to fit over your head without having to tie anything. So that should be good length to use. Just cut that off. So the felt cord is really, really compressed. So it shouldn't take too much at all to attach our pieces. So I'm just going to use our dry felting needle to attach this. So that's going to be the end of our necklace, and we'll start with the largest ball first. And all this is again dry felting that cord into the ball. So you want to make sure you get the correct angle for this. So it's not quite straight down, you will need to work on a bit of an angle. So just make sure that as you're stabbing in and out, you don't move or shift the needle, because this can cause the needle to snap because it is quite fine. It's very easy to go in the wrong direction and pull it the wrong way, and then that will break off. So just make sure you have the right angle, ensuring your fingers are well away from where you are stabbing, and then just going in and out again. Make sure you twist it around so the whole cord is attached to that ball and nothing will fall off. Okay, so just make sure that's nice and secure all the way around, so that looks nicely attached. And then the next step is to join all the other balls together. So you will have to work on a bit of an angle just to make sure you can get both pieces attached together. By working on this angle, what you'll notice is that I'm threading the fibres from this white ball into the top of this grey ball. So by working up and down like this, there's not going to be enough wool fibres in between to get a really secure meshing of the fibres together. So by dragging those fibres from this white ball down on an angle into this grey ball, you can make sure that they'll be nicely secured and attached. Okay, so as you can see, that's nice and firm, so that's not going to fall off or have any issues there. And we're going to repeat the process for this last ball on the bottom. So that last one is attached, and if you do notice any of your pieces of wool have come unstuck or have moved away, you can always dry felt those back in, or even if one of the balls falls off or is a little bit loose, you can always dry felt back into it to reattach it. But otherwise, that's our finished piece. And you can try it on just to make sure the length is correct. So if you found the length was a little too long or even too short, you can pull this leather cord back off and then reattach it once you have the correct length. But that is nice and long, how I like to wear it, and you can pull it straight back over your head instead of having to tie any knots. So that's our finished little dry felted necklace piece. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.